Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Once again, we are going to talk about the legal matters at this moment in the country, especially because the former Prime Minister of Pakistan and the former head of PMLN, Mian Nawaz Sharif, has once again been sent to jail for 7 years. There were two references which were there, Al Azizia and Flagship. In one, he got this punishment. In the other, he has been freed. There are many questions about the last case regarding Flagship. Why was he let go in that? Because there are people who believe that maybe he was disqualified on the basis of this very one. But that is not all we are going to discuss, because it is going to have a ripple effect. It usually has. We are living in a democracy where you have political calculations to take care of as well. PMLN, the party of the former Prime Minister, is the second largest party in the parliament. What exactly happens in coming days, especially regarding the government's legislative agenda? The third largest party that is in the parliament is also facing similar kind of consequences regarding mega money laundering case. Today, there was a hearing, and the GIT that implicates the GIT report that implicates the former president Asif Ali Zardari, his sister, many others. They were concerned about it, and then there was a presentation in the Supreme Court as well. And the question then is, what exactly is going to be the case in coming days, because GIT has been given 2 months extension. In coming days, one has to understand how it is going to affect the political future of the country, and especially the parliament, because there is a huge list of lawmaking that has to take place in the parliament in coming days. In order to help us understand these matters and more, we are joined by Mohammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab, MNA of ruling party Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Shoaib Shaheen Sahab, used to be our regular, guest for quite some time, a senior journalist of Supreme Court, but somehow he stopped appearing here, but now he's back. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Barrister Muhammad Ali Saif Sahab, Senator of MKM. MKM remains an ally of the ruling party, but it has opinions of its own as well. So wherever they disagree, they share their opinion very quickly. Later in the program, we will be joined on telephone by the parties that we are discussing about. But at this moment, we are not primarily concerned about those parties. We are about the future of politics and how parliament operates in Pakistan. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, your party has a lot of plans for the parliament. You have to bring in many laws. How are you going to pass those laws, given that the parliament is now hung parliament?
I agree with you to the extent that, yes, we do not have much of a number game in our favor,
Yeah.
but we still are in majority, and we'll try and give our best to make better communication with the parties of the opposition.
Okay.
Whereas these decisions are concerned whether he's being jailed or he's sentenced or acquitted or whatever, those are independent decisions by the independent courts, and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has nothing to do with that.
But you realize that the moment a leader of a party, even a former leader, is sent to jail, they stop, cooperating with the government. And you need 2/3 majority to pass any amendment in the constitution. And you have many plans. For example, judicial reforms, economic reforms, your bureaucracy's reforms. How are you going to actually do it?
You know, the other day, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif was on the assembly floor. He said, we will cooperate anything for everything which goes in favor of strengthening the democracy in Pakistan. And
he was especially talking about southern Punjab province.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did talk about the southern Punjab province and the matters of constitutional issues as a whole.
Right.
Yes.
Right. We still have to wait and see what exactly becomes of that. But let me go to Shoaib Shaheen Saab regarding today's verdict. Why was Mian Nawaz Sharif handed a clean chit in the flagship case?
I think I could not read the whole judgment which is now available, I think.
Then
But
can
the
you
main
tell
thing
us
is,
about the implication of that?
I think there are two ways. One thing is he was, in the flagship case, he was ousted from the prime ministership
Yeah,
at that
disqualified
time.
for 10
disqualified
years.
for 10. But that case was the assets or the salary which was at least received or receivable whatsoever
It was
may be,
receivable.
whatsoever it may be, but that was not disclosed in his assets forms, in his declaration. So that was the main case. But when there is a case of criminal liability, then the case is totally different, because the criminal liability, the test for proof of criminal liability is different regarding that issue, wherein the declaration has not been properly filled. So you see that there were admitted facts. Mian Nawaz Sharif had admitted in his reply before the Supreme Court that he mistakenly or when he was not receiving this, therefore he did not disclose that that salary. So that was somehow different.
So what you are saying is today's verdict doesn't affect his disqualification
No,
in that case.
In that case, because the admitted facts need not to be proved. And when the judgment was decided, you see that the findings of the Supreme Court were that this issue has been admitted by the other side. So when it was admitted, therefore he was disqualified. To the extent of this test, when the NAB has filed a reference, and in that reference the prosecution was bound to prove the case beyond any shadow of doubt.
Okay.
So that was the case. But in this case, there were somehow different kinds of the proof for discharging the liability of the prosecution to prove the case beyond any shadow of doubt. So the benefit of doubt might have been given to Mian Nawaz Sharif, which I have not read the judgment, so I cannot comment on that. What were the findings of the court?
What happens now?
I think
He has been apprehended, he has been taken to jail, and he will be shifted
Now-
as per his own request to Lahore
to the
jail.
Lahore.
Yeah.
But now he has only option to file an appeal before the Islamabad High Court, which is already pending in another reference, in another
Right,
appeal,
right.
an Evan-failed case. So he has an option to file an appeal within 10 days against this verdict, and thereafter to file a writ petition under Article 199 of the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan 1973 for suspension of the judgment, so that he should be released on bail. So there are two options available for him.
Right.
If the court considers this judgment also to be at par with the previous judgment, the judgment can be suspended.
Okay.
But that depends upon the discretionary power to be exercised by the Honorable High Court. But that is also a probability that both appeals can be clubbed and be decided by the same bench, which is already hearing that.
And how much time does it take for this to happen, if he is going to get some kind of relief?
You see, they will file an appeal within 10 days. Thereafter, they will file writ petition that till the decision of the appeal, the judgment be suspended. And there are options for the court, two options. One is to
Reject
decide the writ petition,
Okay.
or
To give a stay.
to decide the writ petition, or wait for the or fix the main appeal.
Okay.
Fix the main appeal,
Right,
and
right.
decide the main appeals. Both the appeals can be decided one at the same time. So it depends upon the courts, the court timings, and the request of both the parties.
Right.
And probably
As we
the
move
NAB
forward,
may
we are going to talk about People's Party's case as well.
probably
Asif Ali
NAB
Zardari's.
probably
But allow me
NAB
to-
may also file an appeal against this judgment, wherein he has been acquitted.
He has been acquitted in flagship case, a reference case, so NAB certainly
May.
is going to challenge this as well. But Barrister Saif, your take on today's judgment, sir? You're also a barrister, you're a lawyer.
Yeah, last time I checked I was. But
No, I'm not trying to remind you, sir. I'm reminding my viewers.
yeah.
Although you're a politician, you're also a lawyer.
Yeah, yes, I am. And my take on it, I'll be very candid in my in admitting the fact that I haven't read the judgment, because the judgment naturally was announced around 3:30, and
Yeah.
later the text of the judgment
The
wasn't
text of the
available.
judgment arrived only a couple of hours
Yeah,
ago.
so I haven't.
133 pages.
Yeah, it's a long judgment, and I haven't had the opportunity to go through it. But
Yeah, but you have seen the merits and discussion on
yeah,
it.
let me. Yeah, this is what I'm coming to. Yes, but insofar as the merits are concerned, I mean, in one case he has been acquitted. Definitely, the judgment would the reasoning that one could expect from that judgment would be that probably the allegations could not be proved on the basis of evidence produced by the prosecution. So that could be the only logical argument that the judge might have given. It's just a speculative assumption on my part, but I'm just referring to that. Number two, in the case that he has been convicted and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment,
Right.
even in that case, I believe that insofar as my understanding of the process is concerned, and I may be wrong, but my understanding is that it must be on a very flimsy ground that he has been convicted.
Okay.
And the reason that I say flimsy ground is because, as far as I remember, one of the main contentions was to the linkage and the interconnection between the statement of Hussain Nawaz, his son, and then Mian Nawaz Sharif. And it's basically the same old dilemma that we always face in NAB trials, where Section 14 become operational.
Burden of proof?
Yeah, it's the shifting of burden of proof, and it's a tricky issue, because in white collar crimes, it always comes as a major debatable topic as to when and how does the burden of proof shift in a certain
Okay.
case. So my understanding is
Right.
that it is something which Hussain Nawaz could not produce, on the basis of which Nawaz Sharif had to be convicted.
Right.
So it's a tricky issue, and my understanding is that maybe.
And allow me, I'm going to come back to you. I'm told that Ahsan Iqbal Sahab, senior leader of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, former federal minister, has joined us on telephone. Ahsan Iqbal Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for your time. You're also part of that steering committee. Sir, tell us what is your reaction to today's verdict, and secondly, what happens next?
First of all, let me say that we are very disappointed because the verdict is based on some assumptions. The set of evidence in both cases was same, and in one case he has been acquitted, while in the other case he has been convicted on the account that his son had sent him some money, and because his son sent him money, they assume that he is now beneficial owner of that property. So, son sending money to his father would not tantamount to establishing ownership of Mr. Nawaz Sharif. It is very ironical because in the earlier instance, he was disqualified because he did not take salary from his son's company. So in one case, while he does not receive money from his son, he is disqualified. In another case, because his son sends him money, he's convicted for 7 years. We think that it is a very weak judgment. We'll go into appeal. We'll fight a legal battle. And we are very hopeful that in the higher court, this conviction will be set aside.
Right, sir. Regarding the political strategy of your party, Mian Nawaz Sharif is now incarcerated, and we know Shehbaz Sharif Saab is under trial already and under investigation and interned. What happens now on the political front? Is your party going to agitate? Is it going to agitate in the parliament, or there's something else that is going on right now?
First of all, let me make it clear that our party took a very principled decision that we will not raise temperature to a point where this government can use our agitation as a pretext for not delivering. We need to give them time so that we are able to expose their inexperience, their failure, their incompetence. So there will be a reasonable time which we would like to give to this government to expose their failure in delivering the promises they made with the people. We will certainly perform a very effective role inside the parliament, and we will also, as I said, fight a legal battle because we are very confident that the cases are very weak and the higher courts will certainly set them aside. At the same time, we are now focusing on organization of our party, and we have already announced that 2019 will be an organization year for PMLN from Karachi to Peshawar in all the provinces, from bottom to top. We will carry out a membership campaign. We will mobilize our ranks, and we will prepare our party for the next elections whenever they take place.
Right, sir. Ahsan Iqbal Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Let me come back to the studio. Barrister Sahab, if you want to add to what you were saying, please go ahead.
I don't have
You
to
have
add
made your
much,
point,
but
right? Coming back to you, Ibrahim Sahab, the point is PMLN thinks that your party will expose itself and they don't have to escalate to make you martyrs.
You know,
Why do they think that way?
I think they have every right to feel the way they want to feel, and they want to have a daydreaming. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I mean, a party which has, you know, brought this country under debt within 5 years, about $36 billion.
Yeah.
And now do they have the moral authority to talk about how to run the government? And I would also combine it with the People's Party. I mean, with the combination of the two.
Okay.
I mean, in Pak rupees, 24,000 billion rupees were, I mean, this country was put under debt.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about, I mean, it's
Yeah,
really.
but here's the argument, for the
okay.
sake of argument.
Sure.
The two wrongs never make a right. Their government did whatever did.
Absolutely.
But now you
we
are
are
in
not saying
government.
that we are not going the way, we are not taking on to that path that they have chosen. We are trying to make the improvement in our economy. We are trying to build economy on permanent basis. That
But still borrowing, sir?
Sir, still borrowing means look at the background. In 60 years of time span, you have only borrowed 600,000 rupees.
Okay.
600,000 billion. And now in the span of 10 years, you are borrowing 24,000 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something, when they left the government, we weren't left with anything in the kitty.
Okay.
And there was nothing left. So it's,
your
it's,
actual agenda has to be restructuring this system, is it not?
we will do that, but at the same time, what I personally feel, even though we are totally against, I think the wishful circumstances could be that we didn't have to go for borrowing the money. But you have to look at the other aspect, that Imran Khan went to Saudi Arabia, China, and UAE and Malaysia, and look at his credibility. I mean, it was him that the first lady of the Malaysian president, prime minister, was asking, I mean, he's like her son, and then he goes to Saudi Arabia, where King Salman takes him out on a long drive. Is that is where it comes down to what your credibility is.
Okay.
Whereas these, I mean, gentlemen.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, sir. But with due respect, we were talking about the agenda of reform. If you have to implement reform, you need lawmaking in the parliament. You were talking about two major parties that might be able to offer you any kind of help in the parliament. Senate is totally out of your control right now. And the National Assembly, in that you have a razor-thin majority. How will you go and ask for their support if most of your supporters, your politicians, your leaders are going to be that openly critical of the other two parties?
You know, the thing is that initially, when we were talking about the National Assembly, we don't need to, I mean, yes, for the larger interest of the country, we do have to make on improvements and for the betterment of the people, we do legislations time to time. But under the present prevailing laws, even those laws are implemented in true letter and spirit. Trust me, I mean, this is more than enough to curtail corruption in this country.
Yeah, but
on the level
sir,
it has
with
been
due
taken.
respect, you have certain, task forces, the purpose of which was to advise on reform. And reforming needs restructuring. Restructuring can be done through the law, change in the law.
Sure.
And that needs some kind of vote in the parliament. But let me go back to Shoaib Shaheen Sahab. Sir, you have listened to Ahsan Iqbal Sahab, and he's saying that the judgment was weak. Even one of the government allies is saying that flimsy unipathy text was used. What is your take?
One thing is I have not read the judgment.
Yeah.
Although the last sentences which I have read, I don't think that these are the flimsy grounds. You see, in NAB cases, there are that case is somehow different from the general criminal laws, because in that case, if you accept some assets, if you accept that these assets, whether it is movable or immovable, that belongs to you, or your spouse, or your dependents, or your kids and children, and you had been a public office holder, then the burden shifts upon your shoulder.
Okay.
Then in that eventuality, you have to shift, you have to prove that yes, these
have
are
to
the
give a
resources,
legitimate money trail.
money trail. These are the resources from where we have acquired this land or this assets, whether it is movable or immovable, whatsoever it may be. So I think there is some difference in that case. So it should not be said straight away that these are the flimsy grounds. I think because if these grounds were the flimsy grounds, and in the beginning when the Supreme Court has directed to file the reference against these persons, in that in that instance, the evidences or the version produced by Mian Nawaz Sharif and his family was not accepted at that time. And thereafter in JIT, those were also not accepted. And again, when the JIT report was submitted, the Supreme Court gave another opportunity to rebut those observations and the findings. And they were also not successful. And I think after the prosecution evidence was closed, Mian Nawaz Sharif and his family had two options. Either to give the documentary or oral evidence in defense along with their sons, and to rebut the evidence which were produced against them by the NAB, which they did not opt to do so. So in that eventuality, I think the findings given by the Learned Court are just, proper, and in accordance with law.
Right. Barrister Saif, you have seen the trial going on. It has been going on for quite some time. When you look at the process and the defense that kept on coming, people are saying that at this moment, Mian Nawaz Sharif's defense was very weak, and they were not able to produce the money trail that was needed. You won't agree with that perception, sir?
No, I don't think that there is a very hard and fast rule about the way a trial is conducted or not. It's it is the prosecution which has to lead the trial. It is their case, their baby, especially in criminal cases. Prosecution has to take this onus on themselves. Insofar as the accused is concerned, he of course has to rebut that evidence. There is no doubt about that. Otherwise, the case gets established against you. But the reason that I said that it is, in my opinion, I haven't read it. I told you that in the beginning that I haven't read it, but I believe that it is on flimsy grounds. Is that the reason I said it? Because look at the sentence. If he had been, if the grounds were very strong, and if the court had had that kind of evidence at its disposal that would have warranted a secure conviction, I believe it would have granted imposed full dose of punishment.
Okay.
And also,
And that was not given.
yeah, because when you impose lesser sentence,
What is the full dose of punishment?
more than 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So
14 years.
14 years.
14
Yeah,
years.
14 years. Sorry, 10 years of disqualification, right? Which is automatic anyway, even if you are convicted for less than a number of years. But insofar as the issue is concerned, I believe that this issue is not for us to debate, because we haven't read the judgment, so we'll be just speculating. But I believe that in NAB trials, and I have been a NAB prosecutor for several years. I was one of the founding prosecutors of NAB, and I have seen the way these trials are conducted, especially in white collar crimes. Usually in the trial, at the trial level, situation is different, and the courts do go ahead and convict the accused. But later in the High Court, when it comes to the scrutiny of the evidence and the scrutiny of the judgment, usually there are so many lacunas that are brought up, and I have not yet seen, I mean, the number of final convictions, right, from the Supreme Court is very, very low.
So what you are saying essentially is there is lacuna in NAV law itself?
It's not the NAB law as such, it's the nature of offense, the white collar
Okay.
crime, corruption and corrupt practices and misuse of authority.
Yeah, but
which
if we are
itself is
let
a,
go
is a-
later on
which
by the
itself is a
Supreme Court.
difficult offense to be proven by the prosecution, because you require a connection of a documentary evidence, a long series of documentary evidence, you require oral evidence, you require, I mean, a number of various modes of evidence, which is usually not the case in ordinary criminal trials.
Right.
Also, in this case, my understanding is, and this is again based on my assumptions, not on the basis of reading of the
Your
judgment.
assumption and your experience.
Experience to some extent, yes, and looking at the number of like the cases that have been decided and then went through the appellate process earlier, I'm just taking them into consideration and then commenting the fact that I believe that the fact that Hussain Nawaz did not appear, the burden of proof itself is a complicated issue in white collar crimes.
Right.
Even our own jurisprudence
Even
is
according
not.
to NAB law.
Yes, yes, it is. Although Section 14 specifically
Yeah.
says that if prima facie case is established, then the burden of proof shifts there. But then how to discharge that burden of proof itself is a jurisprudential issue. And my personal understanding is, insofar as I've conducted NAB trials, I believe, and also involved in appellate process, I believe that our law, our jurisprudence on the shifting of burden of proof and how to discharge that has not yet touch the same level as required, and there are always loopholes which the courts take into consideration, and then they usually acquit
They
people.
allow
Yeah.
people to walk free.
Like I'll just give you
Yeah.
one example,
Yeah.
just one example. Look at the cases in Balochistan. Forget about Nawaz Sharif's case, although his sentence has been suspended in one of the
one case,
cases, by
yeah.
the High Court. In the first instance, it just suspended it. Look at those cases, very high-profile, notorious cases from Balochistan, in which money was shown all over the media and
Yeah, bags
recovered and
full
all.
of
But
money.
he is
Where
involved
are-
in plea bargaining.
where are
He
those
was-
people now?
No,
Right?
He was,
Yeah.
Plea bargaining is important. We are going to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a
but let
different
him make
aspect
his
of
point.
NAB. Yeah. So, I mean, because the NAB will always go for plea bargaining when it realizes that it cannot properly establish the case. They go for plea bargaining because they decide
So
it's,
what
it's an
changed this
executive
time?
decision.
What changed this time? They thought that they can actually prosecute and they have the
I
evidence.
believe that Mia Nawaz Sharif did not go for plea bargaining.
No, it
Okay.
is
Because plea
it is
bargaining
for
Was
is a
he
the
offered any-
conviction. Plea bargaining
It is
entails
the accused
conviction.
who offers that my plea
Yeah,
bargain
yeah.
should be accepted.
Yeah, and NAB
so I am
accepts-
ready to deposit
didn't
the
file-
amount.
Shoaib
They
Saab,
didn't have any
Shoaib Saab,
prayer.
it is not the choice of the, he says that he wants to enter into plea bargain, but the
Yeah.
NAB has to decide whether or not it goes for plea
Then
bargain.
again, it is with the concurrence of the court.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the first choice and
Yeah, but
offer
this
is by the
time-
accused.
My point is this time it didn't happen, right?
No,
It didn't,
because
because
the-
it
So
wasn't
plea
asked for.
bargaining is out of question. Now we have to talk about another very important issue regarding the very same case, and it is NRO 2. People keep on saying that there might be some kind of NRO in the works. The government keeps on denying that. What is your take?
I don't know what NRO, what does signify, what do they signify when they say that an NRO is required, because the opposition keeps on saying that they have never asked for any NRO.
Okay.
By NRO, I believe it's just a connotation implying a kind of an understanding between both the parties
Yeah.
and to let go. But I don't think that, because opposition has all along been saying, denying that, I mean, we haven't said it and we haven't asked for it. And the government keeps on, some of the ministers of the government were
Yeah,
not.
some of the
yeah.
leading ministers.
Yeah, but I don't believe that, and I don't think that there is any likelihood of any
NRO
blank check NRO.
being demanded or being offered?
I think it's just a media-based discussion. It has no legal or any
Funny
political
that you
basis.
say that. Let me first ask Ibrahim
Yeah.
Saab whether they are going to offer any NRO or not, and then I'm going to use something that I've seen in the
We have
media.
been a very clear stance on the issue that no NROs will be issued to anyone. And secondly, I would also like to
Comment on the legal
contribute-
matters? Yeah.
Yes, a little bit, even though I'm not a legal expert at all. Mr. Nawaz Sharif admitted himself while being on the floor of the House that these are the resources, how we build these empire and all that.
Okay.
And now we are keeping all that or throwing it into the dustbin and saying, no, I mean, he'll be able to get away with it.
Yeah, but
I
on the
seriously
floor
have-
of the House, whatever you say cannot be used against you in the court of law.
Well, that's, I think it is a sad situation. Like
It might be, but it is part of how the Constitution and the Parliament works.
Okay, but what I'm saying is this
you-
is the
I understand,
most
sir.
prestigious and sacred place where you stand.
That's why you're
and you make-
protected.
And that means, in other words, I mean, declaration in front of God and reciting a kalma, and later on you say, okay, it was
But
just.
it is before the God.
But,
You
okay.
cannot actually
But
take it to
you
that
see,
limit.
for
can you?
us, I know, but again, for us, I think it is a sacred place where
Okay,
you.
I get that
stand
point.
and,
Now you say that you are not offering any NRO. Opposition says it is not demanding any. And yet, one of your allies, a minister, a senior federal minister, that is Sheikh Rashid Ahmed, yesterday said that there has been some kind of compromise. There might be some kind of NRO.
Sheikh
For
Saab
Shehbaz
has-
Sharif.
Sheikh Saab has these kind of prophecies, and
You
I
don't agree
cannot-
with them?
I don't agree, and
Okay.
I would agree with my leadership, and my leadership said no NROs at all.
But your leadership sort of supports Sheikh Rashid Ahmed as well. That's
Supporting-
why he's part of the cabinet.
Supporting someone is different than agreeing to whatever he says.
So no NRO,
No
never.
NRO, never.
No compromise with the corrupt
Sir,
people.
it's a question of the existence of the country. Let me tell you something very clearly. If we make compromises on this, and if these people are once again given the chance
Okay.
to rule this country, then we are going for a very dreadful future for Pakistan.
Okay.
They have proven over 40 years of time period of governance,
Right.
and this is what they have delivered. And in spite of all of that, we heard is the gentleman from N League, their federal
Ahsan
minister,
Iqbal, yeah.
Ahsan Iqbal Saab, that they are giving us time to be exposed.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
where he's
opposition
coming
is
out.
going to say such things.
No,
They
but
keep on saying.
it should have certain basis or certain credibility or certain moral authority to
Yeah,
state
but
this kind of.
it might be a kind of complaint and admission also that somehow you didn't give them that kind of time, and that's why they consider themselves to be martyrs.
No, we
I have to go forward.
We
with your
gave them,
permission.
they had 40 years.
Right. Right. I'm told that we are joined by Nafisa Shah Sahiba, who is a senior leader of Pakistan People's Party. Thank you very much, ma'am, for talking to us. We were discussing the ongoing corruption cases, and now we know certain details about the findings of JIT in mega money laundering case. What is your party's position on that, ma'am?
Well, we have been stating this throughout, that accountability is very important, transparency is very important, but accountability has to be across the board, and accountability has to be done within the due process of law and procedure. Now, JIT is an executive function. It is, the tradition is that it's often ordered under an executive head. So it's a police investigative report just to enhance the scope of the investigation under question. This particular JIT was constituted by the Supreme Court. This is a report. It further has to go through the entire legal process. These are now allegations. These are not facts. And these are not facts that prove certain things beyond beyond doubt. So this is a report, and if similar JITs are constituted for Banigala, for Jahangir Tareen's property, for Arima Khan, for Aleem Khan, for all the financiers of Imran Khan, PTI, you might even get a more grandiose story. So presently, this is a perspective of a certain a group of officials, and this has to now undergo the scrutiny of law. And what we are calling for is due process where the persons under allegation have all the right under the law and the constitution to defend themselves, which is open, which is transparent, so that their perspective
we
comes
get
in.
your legal strategy, but regarding your political strategy now, we have been hearing many statements coming from leadership of the party regarding agitations. What mode are you in, ma'am, your party? Are you going to agitate in coming days? Are you going to agitate within the parliament? What exactly will be the strategy?
Agitating for justice. We will continue to agitate for justice. What mode that will take depends on the leadership. We have a CEC meeting on the 26th. Let us see what the mood in the party is. The party will decide. Right now, it's a legal matter. But the due process or law entails that you cannot condemn anyone unheard, and that media trials often, there have been media trials previously also against the PPP. Media trials is a story apart from the legal processes. So we believe we will be following the legal processes, but at the same time, we will be calling for justice and equal treatment under the law. And if a JIT is constituted for a certain for a certain issue, then we'd also call for GITs to be constituted for the ruling party as well.
Right.
And there,
But you realize, ma'am, this demand that somehow, if this has been created, you have to create a couple of GITs more, seems to be a self-defeating principle or argument, because two wrongs never make a right. If something right is happening, then you cannot have objection to that, can you?
sorry, let me intervene. We want that there should be equality under the law.
Okay.
Presently, the perspective is that certain parties, certain leaders in the opposition are being targeted, and PTI at the behest of the ruling party. And the ruling party itself, they have, of course, the person, the richest, one of the richest people in Pakistan who belongs to JIT has been financing, which is Jahangir Tareen. It proves that, nothing.
I totally get it, ma'am. I get your point of view, but since we have to talk about other matters as well, thank you very much for your time. I'm coming back to the studio. So you want to say something?
I would like
very
to
quickly.
respond to her.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, she's right that yes, these are just the allegations at the moment,
yeah.
and let them be compiled. Fine. But on the other hand, they're talking about Jahangir Tareen, and they're talking about Bani Gala, and they're talking about certain other issues.
You're right.
They were in government in the last 5 years, and
They could have done it,
They
yeah.
could have done it because they had nothing.
Okay.
And now they're trying to compare, and as you said, it's a self-defeating sort of argument and
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah, and secondly, most of these cases were not actually filed during your government's time. They were
Not at all,
prepared,
sir.
and they came under investigation during the previous
And
government.
head of the NAB was also
Yeah.
chosen by the opposition and the
Right. Barrister
Treasury benches.
Saif Saab, regarding People's Party's case, especially involving these humongous big organizations. For example, Beria has also mentioned a couple of more, Omni Group as well. What do you make of that case? Should People's Party's narrative be heard and absorbed, or you are going to take it with a pinch of salt?
You see, once again, I believe that what we are discussing is actually reflection of the chaos and the disorder in our legal system, in our criminal justice system.
Okay.
There is an investigation going on. JIT has been formed, and here we are sitting, not just here, but on every TV channel. We are discussing all the facts that have been brought before the Supreme Court today in the JIT report. I believe personally, insofar as my really, I'll be just admitting my lack of knowledge of law,
Okay.
but I believe that insofar as I have heard or read,
No, but regarding our
revelation of
hang on,
inquiries
hang on.
or
With due
investigation.
respect, let me qualify one aspect. We are not debating the GIT's findings. We are debating one thing that happened today. The
conviction,
information
yeah.
minister and the minister on accountability
Yes, yes.
came on television and disclosed all this material.
Yes, and I believe that that was not supposed to be done,
Okay.
shouldn't have been done,
Okay.
because it is, in a way, you are actually taking over the job of the JIT and have become an advocate of the JIT's findings. Why? Why would you do that? Because the JIT is supposed to be an independent body which is
agree.
supposed to
Okay.
bring
You agree
facts
with that?
and
I
then
agree with
and
that.
then submit them before a court, and then let the court try on the basis of those facts and come to a
But
conclusion.
what happened was that today Supreme Court didn't bar anybody from disclosing the details that were shown
Yes.
on a projector in the court.
I understand that, but still, I would say that it is still an inconclusive report. It is not finalized yet. The JIT is still working on it,
Okay.
and I think that in a criminal justice system, such a practice of discussing and making, expressing political opinion on the basis of something like that, I believe it is unethical as well as illegal.
Right.
However, because it in a way directly or indirectly affects the final conclusion that the court would draw on the basis of this
But
evidence.
here's the problem in the criminal system, and let me bring this discussion to Shoaib Shaheen Saab as well. In this system, we see criminal cases pending for quite a long time. And now, if there is an information, if somebody is criticizing you, is going to use that evidence. You don't agree with that?
I think it is going
One
to.
thing is very important. You see, when the material has been brought before the court of law, before the Supreme Court, then there is freedom of expression.
Okay.
Everyone has relevant material. That is, at least to some extent, it is authentic. To the extent it is tentative in nature, because the trial shall commence and this document or the findings shall be placed before the trial court, and thereafter an opportunity of cross-examination will be given to the defense, to the accused,
Right.
and thereafter the final findings can come. But to this extent, when the matter is at least has been brought before the court, when the findings are available, and
When it has been publicly
displayed, then there is no one can say that these are the confidential. There is a confidentiality, or no one has claimed for confidentiality.
Okay.
None of the parties has claimed for confidentiality. So I think there is.
You were replying to Barrister Saif. He wants to respond to you.
No, I am amazed to hear this because, and rather confused, because where is the court? Today there was no trial going on.
Okay.
In a criminal investigation, whatever that case may be, you are supposed to bring that before the court, and the court, by the court we mean, in inverted commas, the court which is trying that offense. Today there was no trial.
Okay.
It was just a Supreme Court supervising the conduct of an inquiry, which in my opinion, which is, I mean, of course I'm not going to
May I-
criticize
may
Supreme
I-
Court,
Glad
may
that
I
you're
refer-
talking about the
These
legal
are the proceedings.
niceties.
Yes.
One
But
thing-
my concern is there is a humongous level of corruption also involved.
This is the
I
thing.
don't know whether this
Yes.
party was guilty or that party,
Yes.
but there was money made,
But for
and we don't know what exactly.
prove it in the court and hang that person who is
You
responsible
see,
for it.
the process,
I'm coming to
although
you, sir.
the process should be given, fair opportunity, defense should be given, but one thing is the trillion of rupees have been in this way, the money laundered, and in this way you
Right.
see the evidence
I
has
get
been
that point, sir.
collected and
Let me go back to Ibrahim Saab because I'm being told that we have to conclude the program very quickly. Please go ahead, sir.
See, my point is that anything, I'm not a student of law at all, but what,
No, you are a lawmaker.
okay, I'm a professional lawyer, okay, in other words.
Yeah.
But one thing, once the case is in the court, we all need to avoid giving statements about whether it's positive or against it or in favor of the case. Let the courts make decision. I would agree with the Barrister Saab. And once the decisions are
Verdict
made,
has been given.
verdict has been
Then
given,
you can
then a
actually
person
talk
should be taken to task. And I am vocal about giving capital punishment to those once in proven in the court of law.
Okay. I might be able to disagree there, but the problem
Fine,
is that
that's,
when it comes to JIT, in the past also we have seen the contents of JIT being discussed on television. It is not that today, if it is about Asif Ali Zardari or this man or that man, we cannot. My concern is that when you have been doing it for quite some time, and there are allegations and evidences, regardless of who is guilty,
Yes.
if you are going to stop the discussion on television, somebody is going to leak that information indirectly to the media. In this age, you cannot stop it. Or somebody can go and create a fake account on Twitter and release it there. How are you going to stop it?
As per my observation, we being the government, if we sit on a TV and talk about these allegations, then it gives an opportunity to the opposition that we are in connivance with some kind of connivance with the
Knowledge of something is not
knowledge.
connivance.
Sir, knowledge is something different. But you
Barrister
see,
Sahib,
but
very quickly, and then Shoaib Shaheen Sahib,
When
very
you
quickly.
look at the documents that were presented before the JIT, they were shown on one television channel, and I was watching them.
Yeah.
Every document had this printed word confidential on it. Every paper, right? If it is confidential.
When they were created, right? They
When
are
they were
not for the
produced
court.
today, when they were produced today in the Supreme Court, right? Whatever the presentation that was given, the term confidential was written on it. Now the point is, why do you write that? Then invite all the media and have a press conference there.
Okay, that is a fair point. Shoaib Sahib,
So
very quickly, and then
there
I have
was,
to go.
when it was confidential, when it was sealed, but when it was produced before the court and confidentiality was not claimed by any of the party, then it is published for everyone. One thing, and the other thing is these proceedings were under Article 184(3) of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court in these circumstances has already given the verdict in JIT
Right.
case, and therefore this case is at par with the previous case.
Okay.
So I think
I
today is a
cannot
very
afford a
important day.
long discussion
So
because we have
today
to
is a
conclude
very
the
important
program now.
day for at least
advocating a point which
against
is, I
corruption.
think,
I
okay,
think this is.
Let us agree to disagree.
I think
Very quickly,
today
sir.
was the very historical day, at least to this extent. There are two important
Cases.
against two big persons. So I think this is a good day for us and for the citizens of Pakistan.
Right. On that note, Shoaib Shaheen Sahib, I have to conclude the program. Thank you very much for your time. Mohammad Ibrahim Khan Sahib, thank you very much, sir, for your time as well. Barrister Mohammad Ali Saif Sahib, thank you very much for your time as well, sir. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Of course, there are legal matters and there are political matters. We'll keep on debating them. But one thing is for sure, when it comes to the idea of corruption in this country, people are getting more and more aware. And perhaps this tolerance for corruption as a cultural thing might be over. No more tolerance for corruption in this country or the confluence of politics and corruption. If that happens, it is truly a great day for the country. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.